I don't know why you're using the barn experiment. Okay. Uh, the point of the two-slit experiment goes beyond your point. Yeah, there is an argument there, the fact that no matter how accurate your gun is, you move your accuracy into a small circle and you still don't know where the bullet's going to be in that circle. And there is an argument there that no matter how small you get that circle, that perfect certainty is an asymptotic goal you can't actually reach. You should get closer and closer. That should be good enough, right? Because it's like, I can't chart a course perfectly, but I can, I can aim well enough to get to the moon. I think that's good enough, right? Well, not for you. You want to know that you could get that perfectly accurate. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. The fact that you haven't got it perfectly accurate, even with high technology, you've only got it more and more accurate, never perfectly accurate, that should, possibly say something to you about your determinacy that, hey, it's not proven yet that even in this case where you get something pretty determinable, like where the bullet will strike, it's still not absolutely determinable. But no, you say, well, it's still in principle do it. The point of the two-slit experiment, okay, is that when you shoot an electron at a screen instead of a barn, let's say, could be at a barn if you want, and there's two slits there. When you shoot electrons there, you see an interference pattern that shows that it's a wave-like structure, okay? It shows that. It shows that it's wave-like. There's distinct patterns come out of a particle-like interaction and a wave-like interaction. And you can provoke both of these. And if you have the two slits, you'll see wave interference, okay? And if you slow this down so that you're firing one electron at a time, you still see this interference pattern. So that makes sense, actually, because that just means that the electron hit both slits. Now, that sounds weird when the electron is like a little BB, but it's not weird when the electron is a wave, because a water wave has a whole wave front. It hits both slits. The parts that don't hit the slit are masked off. The parts that touch the slit go on. The slits act a bit like tiny point sources. The waves interfere with each other, and you see the interference pattern. But with the electron, you see the interference pattern even if you shoot it one at a time. One electron at a time, you still see the interference pattern. So that means that the electron has to be like a wave so that the wavefront can hit both at once. And that's all fine, except for then you see just one little speck as if it was a particle when it hits the actual screen. That becomes the confusing part. Okay, now the only model invented that explains this so far, you're free to make a new model, is that the electron is a wave of probability. See, and the point there is that means the probability is concrete. You see, some great minds have thought like you. It's not that science is lacking anybody trying to defend classical mechanics. Tons of geniuses tried to defend classical mechanics. Okay? But the only model is that, so far, of a wave of probability. And that's the point, that the electron actually is made of probability. So it's not just an analytic idea, probability, like you're trying to say. It's really in the fundamental particle. Okay? So your theory that was tried of, well, we could just determine more and I just need more information. No, because we broke down, we got more information, and at the end we found some of the information was probabilistic. The probability is actually in the electron. Now, you're welcome to come up with another model, but a lot of people have tried. Okay, nothing you've come up with so far has not already been tried and failed to be a successful model, because to be a successful model, it doesn't just have to satisfy your intuition. It has to actually be able to reproduce the results we already have and ideally predict new results we don't have yet. Okay, now we can have a new model, but keep this in mind. A lot of the things that bother you about the model we do have are going to have to be in any new model. Because what? The electron can't be a particle anymore. You only see that interference pattern. It takes two to tango. So there has to be two wavefronts coming through the slits. If it's a particle just going through one slit, it can't interfere with itself. So it can't create the pattern that takes two things. You're shooting electrons one at a time, but you see an interference pattern of something going through both slits. So obviously, whatever the model is, it's going to have to involve wave-like behavior, okay? And it's going to have to involve the electron in some sense going through both slits, or something going through both slits, because it takes something coming through both slits to have the interference pattern. We see the interference pattern. Any model that explains that is going to have to do the same kind of work of one electron somehow interfered with itself as if going through two slits. There's no way to escape that. You know, you were the Pope saying the Earth can't move. And even if you do bully somebody into going, okay, it's not moving, I don't want you to think I'm a phantasmagorical, under their breath, they're going to have to admit reality. You say, I'm religious, but I'm just trying to explain an experiment, a scientific experiment. You know, I didn't learn about this from some mystic. I learned about this from physicists. We were trying to explain concrete results of an experiment. You are denying the evidence because you have an intuition of how things have to work. And I'm the religious one? You're denying evidence that reality is a bit surreal by our current standards. And you're rejecting that because, of course, reality isn't surreal. And that's just like if we have a theory that implies, well, maybe God isn't throwing thunderbolts. It must be rejected. You know, you really should just try to understand this experiment better. I mean, you have the tools, you're just not willing to.